Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. I hope everyone had a fantastic weekend. Big Beat, how are you doing, buddy? Welcome back.
Yeah, look, 2 weeks ago on that Monday on the flush, I said it's time to buy. Look, we don't talk about it buy and sell, but I mean, the flush was pretty obvious. 34 years of doing this, that was a pretty obvious place to start buying back. Why? Because that's where people just got nervous. All of the stops got hit. All of the money, the volatility was coming in and out, and there it was, and here we are. The tariff talk will slow down. There's things we've been talking about already. Look, all of the things that we've been saying had to come to fruition. All we needed was one little good piece of news, and we'd go right back up. And we've already seen that. So, look, this is what we're doing. We're going right back up.
Yep, and what Steve's talking about here is, again, it came out over the weekend that on April 2nd, the U.S. will set some reciprocal tariffs targeting nations with significant trade imbalances. So a little bit different than the broad market thing. I
Right.
do want to bring up one sheet here, though, pretty quickly and just show one thing, because I will warn one thing here is while this is great news, keep in mind that the 15 countries that still might get affected are all of the major ones that still matter: China, Mexico, Germany, Japan, Vietnam, India, Italy, South Korea, Canada. So it doesn't change the thing. It's just a matter of it not being so broad spent that it just destroys the markets. Hopefully they'll be targeted and get the markets moving back in the right direction like we're seeing. Good morning, Market Shark. We are up and running so far. It is a great start to the day. Started over the weekend with Bitcoin making a nice move to the upside here at 87,336 here. We have seen Bitcoin ETFs for the first time in a while. Also saw some inflows. I do have the dollar numbers on that. Here we go, crypto inflows. So we've seen about 724 million in net inflows, marking the end of a 5-week outflow. So we had seen about 5.4 billion in sell pressure across those ETFs turn around last week, and that is what seems to have crypto moving to the upside. So nice little move there. Has us Bitcoin moving up. Gold fairly steady, still at 30.25. Sort of paused out, got to 30.33, but it's been staying in that same sort of area so far. And then as we start to look through what's going on this week, today we have some services PMI coming out at 9:30 and S&P Global Purchasing Manager. Tomorrow we've got housing numbers coming out in general. On Wednesday, durable goods is a big one that we'll be taking a look at here. Thursday, we get GDP. And then Friday is what sort of matters the most. We have core PCE, which is the Fed's favorite inflation metric, along with personal income. So any of those besides PCE, you'll be keeping a close eye on, Steve?
Oh, my goodness. I think that anything that you saw from last Wednesday, whatever he told you, whatever Powell told you he was looking at, we've got to be looking at it, and then probably even closer than even he is, because he's under a lot of pressure. The White House is really putting the pressure now on him to lower rates. And you are seeing rates come down a little bit because the markets have been taking a bit of a beating. But when you look at PCE, he kept telling you it's all about inflation. It's all about inflation, and that labor really isn't causing this problem. But he was saying that there were still some issues out there. And with those issues, he can't feel comfortable about lowering rates. But you did see something that you haven't seen in a long time with this Fed, and that was dissent. You've seen some of the members, you saw Chris Waller from St. Louis actually dissent and say, you know what, it's time to lower rates. And when I keep hearing the R word running around and the S word, now stagflation now is everywhere. We talked about that 6 months ago. I said it was a good possibility of it coming. Here we are. And look, Hondo, when he's telling you that, hey, we need to be looking at these things, we need to be looking at those things, because the Fed is making some very big decisions coming into the springtime, summertime, which is where businesses kind of make bigger decisions, right? It's after, in the case of retail, it's after a tax season, right? And you're going to start to see, okay, are we going to make decisions? I'll tell you one thing that you're going to see a big decision being made on is whether or not companies make stock buybacks. And you know
Right.
what? You can borrow money a lot cheaper. They're going to buy their stock back. And you think the market's low now? Oh my goodness, the market's going to go through the roof. I mean, they don't care about it. If companies feel like they can buy their stock back at cheaper rates, then why wouldn't they, right? Borrow at 3% and their stock goes up 20%. It's kind of a no-brainer, right? So there's a few things here. I would not be short this market. I think the flush happened a few weeks ago when I called it live on Wolf Spaces, and I said, you know what? I think this is it. And when we did it, I think all of those things we're talking about have not come into fruition. So I'm not scared, as I always say.
Right. Absolutely. 10 years are back up around 4.3, 30-year is back above 4.6. So they're not moving down. I will see, though, Goolsby, which we know is Steve Flanagan's favorite guy I listen to, he's using that word transitory again, but using the R word. So we're seeing even the ones that were the most positive making that change. So I do think that's an important one to keep an eye on as, the Fed makes these decisions.
I will say, Howard, that the word transitory was not on my bingo card. Janet Yellen and Powell got so decimated over using the word transitory the last time. I don't know why they didn't stay away from that word. Because the word transitory means it's temporary. The transitory is just a movement from one to the next. That it's not going to last very long. Hey, inflation's lasted quite a while here, and it's so bad that right now that the presidency is suffering because of it, and they can't get through some of their things they want to get through. And because of it, you can't really say transitory because it's not really transitory. I'm not really understanding that word right here.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's been here for a few months, right? And if it's still going to be here for a few more months, then that wasn't transitory. I'm with you. And I will say, being out and around, consumer sentiment still pretty low out there. So, while investors are coming back into the market today, I will say that, an overall view in Main Street versus Wall Street is still fairly negative. Did you find that while I know you were out and about in New Orleans? Did you hear the same thing?
A little bit. I mean, when I'm looking at when you're out in different cities, right? Cities are still going to be busy because they're cities, right? But it's the amount of, and it's the type of spend that's happening, right? I learned a long time ago, you want to know how the economy is doing. When people come out of stores, do they have bags in their hands or do they not have bags in their hands, right? If they got bags, that means they bought something, right? How is the online versus on, I saw a few places over the weekend where it says, hey, our prices are the same as online. Wow. I would not have thought that 20 years ago, right? Online coming on was like, no, it'll never happen. No, it's totally going to happen. It's going to be a flip that people are going to spend more money online than they are going to be in the shopping. It's not really just the shopping, it's the experience, right? And when you're not getting that experience anymore, people are saying, okay, you know what? I'll wait till the prices come down. If everybody knows here, you want to know how the economy is doing, take your Gmail and go look at your promotions tabs and go through it and see if you have 70% offs, right? If you do, then things are not good. 80% off, things are bad, right? There's a level at which I look at. And, I cruise a lot, and I now have over 60 free cruises if I want them, offers. It's crazy how many I have. And that tells me a little bit that things maybe just that the consumer is backing off just a wee bit. It's not transitory, by the way. Right. It is a real deal. People are really nervous. But listen, the world in the markets and how people buy and sell is not the same. The economy is not the stock market. The stock market is what you invest in for longer term. Yes, right. You trade, and trust me, I've been doing it for 34 years. But the economy today is not the economy tomorrow. And that's what I think that the Fed's trying to get across to everybody, that, hey, you know what? Maybe it's okay. You know what? It's going to be transitory. And guess what? In the future, it's going to be all right. I know it's downturn right now, and you're feeling not so good because of all the tariff talk and all of this. I'm not too concerned about it. I think, and you saw it already. That's why I said the first minute you see something change, here goes the market. And all of a sudden over the weekend, well, the tariffs aren't going to be exactly the same. So boom, it goes up. And you posted it right now. You're absolutely right. The gold is now remaining stable. It's not pushing up because they're now going, wait a minute, we don't know what Donald Trump's going to do, but it may not be as bad. So maybe he's backing off this crazy tariff talk.
Yep, absolutely. So, and we do know again, April 2nd is the date, but we've had a lot of different diplomats traveling the globe trying to get things in line before that happens. Do want to bring up some economic data that's in focus this week. Like we said, global PMIs are coming out today and tomorrow. US PCE inflation data. We also have Australia and Japan's inflation data and the UK's budget update. I wanted to talk a little bit about the UK because they're actually looking pretty strong right here. There's sector, I just put it on here, services sector to 7-month high. And it seems like optimism is growing in the UK that they feel that they will be a beneficiary of this trade war between EU and the US.
2 months ago, Howard, you and I talked about this on the show. Trade tariffs war hurts the country that starts it. It's been that way since the beginning of time. Tariffs never work. They may, if it's very pinpointed, like I talked about before, washing machines out of Japan or cars out of Japan at one point, they were dumping those two things on us. That worked out, right? Because that's a very pinpointed thing. This blatant tariff talk is not going to help anybody but the international countries. Look at Canada right now. They're growing fast now. All of a sudden, they're going to have a new prime minister. Japan is coming along again. UK, Europe, Germany is excited because their cars are now being built faster now. And get why? Because people here are going to be buying German cars to get ahead of the tariffs. I mean, it's done nothing but hurt our own deficit, hurt this country, and beefed up the nationalism in other countries. So we really need to slow down the tariff talk. And that's why I think you're seeing Trump going, okay, well, maybe I was a little overindulgent here on this. So yeah.
In fact, I will point out in Canada, he has galvanized the whole nation. In fact, the prime minister has called for snap elections due to the fact that they think they can push the populist movement back down in Canada right now because of that. So we'll see how that plays out.
Over the weekend, you saw commercials, nationalistic commercials coming on Canada. I saw where Mike Myers wore a Canadian hockey jersey and was having a laugh and a parody laugh with the possible new prime minister. Looks like he's going to be there.
Yeah, I definitely. I'm saying preach, Steve, preach here on the banner. So. But I'm with you there. This is what we've been waiting for. We told you you can see some explosive moves to the upside when these things happen. So that's what we looks like could have today. Now it's going to be very important to keep an eye on this open because we've seen some early morning moves. We were up 1.7% on the Qs a couple of days ago in the pre-market and ended up down 1.5 down by the end of the day. So let's just make sure there isn't a rug pulled on us here. But so far looking great. As we start to take a look at some of the ones up the most this morning, Tempest AI up 6%, D-Wave up 6.4%. So we're seeing, again, quantum computing and AI leading the way. Kingsoft Cloud Holdings up 6.29% here. Lumentum Holdings up 6.14%. IonQ up 5.2%. So they are most of the speculative stocks, quantum names, cloud names, all moving up tremendously today. I see Rumble is up about 5.43%. They do have earnings this week. I think it's Wednesday. I have that across here somewhere. But that's also moving up. Yeah, Wednesday. Rumble has earnings on Wednesday. They are moving up here today. Hims and Hers moving up 4.55%. I will point out all the crypto stocks, of course, with the movement in crypto general moving up. MSTR up 4.29, leading the way. Robinhood up 4.7. Mara, Coinbase, CleanSpark, Riot, the miners all up. It's tough to look at them because everything seems to be up 3-4% today. On laggards, we still do have a few, Steve. Did notice a couple that I was looking at here. VFS, which is VinFast, which had taken a big move up after CarMax's earnings look good middle of last week, really has retraced back down now. Israeli defense market ESLT also moving back down here today. Again, had really moved up on the war there. Also noticing communications getting hit a little bit today. Vodafone getting hit here today. Yeah. Verizon getting hit a little bit. AT&T. So we are seeing a little bit across that sector. Seems to be the one sector getting hit so far.
You know, one thing that I saw over the weekend, Michael Saylor talking about how he wanted to buy more Bitcoin. He was getting ready to buy more Bitcoin, and I saw something that I have to ask you, Hondo. I saw the guy that hates crypto the most, Peter Schiff, over the weekend posted on his own Twitter that he turned 62 years old and he has Bitcoin. He actually owns Bitcoin, and he asked people to send him Bitcoin. I mean, am I having a senior moment here? I mean,
yeah, I didn't see that personally, but yeah, that's an interesting one. I wonder if his son hacked his account because his son is a big crypto proponent. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know on that one. I don't have much to say about Peter Schiff that's going to be positive, so I'll just stay out of that discussion in general. Other things moving so far today, we got to tell you about AZEK. AZEK is looking at being bought out here, so they are up tremendously, up about 25%. Let's see what it's up now, 20.66%. Hardy Industries talking about taking them over. So this has been a big pre-mover here. Keep that in mind.
And how much have we talked, Howard, about M&A going to be happening in these few months, right?
Yeah.
As
I
rates
saw an article that asking did Google's purchase of Wiz, sort of be the thing that restarted this? Is that going to be what it is? And we've seen it. We've seen talk the last few weeks about it. So it's good to see some come around.
Well, last year, and I say last year, I would even say last 4 years, as Lena Khan, the FTC chair, she's still on the FTC, by the way, but as the FTC chair, literally stopped every M&A. Didn't matter who they were. All of it got stopped. That's nonsense. That's silliness, right? For me, it was about, look, if there are some good deals out there, let's make this happen. Let's get this going. We don't want to see bankruptcies. We don't want to see losses. Guess what I saw over the weekend? I actually, because it's easier to fly in the South on Spirit, and I'm not, I like Spirit, by the way. I was flying on Spirit this weekend, and the seats were clean. The getting on the planes were easier. The Go Comfy. I like the whole thing they're doing now. Stop that one, right? But I said that once that FTC backs off a little bit and says, okay, you know what? Maybe we got a little too harsh. We're going to see M&A pretty heavy. But this administration is no different than the last administration when it comes to the Mag 7. So these bigger companies, they're still going to hold back and say, we don't want megalomaniac companies like Google and Apple, Facebook, the companies that are huge. They don't really want them, NVIDIA, to be buying other companies and get bigger and bigger and bigger. But smaller companies are, like AZEK here. I think this is a brilliant move, right? Especially if you're finding, and I'm going to tell you, mergers and acquisitions right now are going to be super hot. So find companies that have a high cash flow, that are making money, and pitting them with companies that have better technology or moving the needle and don't have the users. This thing is going to get really good and good and big, because you're going to start seeing 2 companies come together and 3 companies coming together, and mergers are going to get a lot interesting. When you see that, when you see mergers and acquisitions like we are now starting to do this, the one thing that I will say that you're going to see a lot of movement in is junk bonds. And that's ticker HYG. So as you start to see these things happen, make sure that you're also invested in things around it too. Not that you're just looking for a company that could possibly get bought out, which I do all the time. Everybody knows that, especially in the biotech sector. But I will say right now, high yield bonds, HYG and junk bonds will do quite well in this environment. And I think that, probably pays a good dividend and all that. I think you're going to see, the bond market really do well here.
Does pay about a 37-cent dividend on a $80 stock is about what it pays. This is HYG up here. And we have seen a move that way. I did have that. We've seen a move into the bond ETFs in general here over the past week. Where was my bonds?
Watching oil here slipping a bit. Light sweet crude here now, 68.40 a barrel. Like I said, anything above 70 and anything I'm sorry, above 70 is a sell, and anything below about 66 is a buy. So we're right in that that closing area. So this is not telling me that we're going to a recession yet. It's not telling me that things are bad just yet. So if oil is moving like this, I like this.
And like you said, Steve, so we're seeing bond funds attract inflows. They're looking especially at fixed income ETFs, particularly ultra short bond funds. Trend is driven obviously by the market volatility and demographic factors. We're seeing outflows across most equity ETFs, QQQ especially being one that's seen a lot of drop off. We know IBIT and the other crypto ones had until last week. We're actually seeing a different move here too. Active ETFs are gaining popularity, and actively managed ETFs that represent a small segment of the market are seeing increased inflows too. These funds often offer strategies like option income and buffered products, catering to investors seeking regular income and downside protection. We know they really had fallen out of favor, right? The covered call sort of ETFs and these things that are out there that some people put together. But we are seeing a move here, and one that I'm not a huge fan of, except I do think it is being used hopefully mostly as hedges. Leveraged and inverse ETFs are also in demand. So I do like that if they're being used properly. They're not meant to be long-term investing tools. They're meant to be hedges to keep you, safe in times of this volatility. We've been talking about those. Steve, the other thing I just wanted to say that we've been talking about over and over again that now seems to be hitting it is the talk about value being back in the market, right? That a lot of these stocks, and one of the ones I have up here on the screen right now is Pinterest was an example of this. Pins got a couple of analyst upgrades, and what they talked about here is that after the pullback, now some of these have some attractive PE earnings. And I saw this across the board on a bunch of different, news areas that are now covering that. If you've been listening to us, I brought that up 2 Mondays ago, right? We went through it. I got a lot of crap from some of our contributors that maybe, that value didn't matter right now, right? It didn't matter till it matters, but now I guess it does matter because we're seeing all of these articles come out talking about it based upon the fact we're seeing all these analysts jump in. 19 analysts over the weekend on Google, just to give you some of these numbers.
Well, I like
Adobe.
I like the thesis here on Pinterest, right? The thing is, if people are staying home, right, and they're not spending money out, they're going to have some money, and they're going to buy some things online, and maybe they buy local, right? So Pinterest can do that. I still don't really understand Pinterest.
Yeah, because that's not really them. That's Etsy. Pinterest is more, it's just social media where people get ideas. I don't think you buy anything from Pinterest.
Well, I mean, you're going to stay home. You're going to get an idea. Yeah. You're going to look at the things. I get it. But I don't really understand how Pinterest makes money, to be honest with you. I mean, I know they do, and I get.
I don't have an account. I'd have to ask my wife, and you'd probably have to ask yours because they're the consumers that are using it. Again, my point is not about an individual stock. It's about the general stock market.
Yeah, I get you.
I would be looking at price earnings ratios. I'd be looking at where they're at now, where they normally trade. A couple of examples that came across my board were Devon Energy and Amazon is, again, Amazon was one that I brought up, right? That's at levels we haven't seen on price earnings ratios that are at 4 or 5 year lows. This is the time that if you're, rejuggling your long-term holdings and getting ready for the long-term buys, you want to look at these value shares. I just can't preach it enough. I think that if you're not looking at value, then you are making a mistake in the market. As we get ready here, we are about 5 minutes from the open. Tick's pretty neutral here, and I will warn, advanced declines only at 26.39. So I am starting to get a little bit of a spidey sense that we might want to be careful here on the open. We might see a little bit of a sell-off here. We're not seeing the strength still pour into the market. It happened mostly early in the morning, right at that 6 o'clock hour. Markets really haven't moved up since that time. In fact, after peaking out at around 9 o'clock, they've been pulling back a little bit. So let's see what we get here at the cash open 5 minutes away. Again, QQQ sitting right around 487 here. So nice spot trying to break above that key zone I had. So it is still trying to get above it. We'll see if we can get some momentum, but that's what we're looking at so far. In fact, we are seeing a little bit of a sell-off here right across it, now down at 487.87. SPY up 1.22%. And again, I will point out, it has sort of been toppy already this morning, pulling back down a little bit. So we are seeing a little bit of profit taking probably here on the open. Keep an eye on it. If we look at the Spider Selects, it was a mixed bag. I will point out there are a few energy sector, utility sector. I don't know XLP offhand. Consumer staples so far ready to open in the red. Big winner, of course, XLK, which is technology. So we're back with technology really driving the bus here today, Steve.
Yeah, and I mean it's all over the news about how the White House is slimming down the tariff talk and what. So I just think it's the beginning of it. I think that they back off of a lot more than we think, and by the time we get to it, the market will be way more higher. So this is not, it was not shocking to me. We've talked about it for 2 weeks. We've just said, hey, look, sometimes you got to hold your nose and buy, even when you think the world's going to fall apart, because it's not. Even when it is falling apart, even during COVID, it was falling apart. And guess where we are since COVID? So, look, I don't see anything in here that's fundamentally really bad yet. The only thing that makes me nervous is when the talk of being nervous becomes the talk of being nervous, right? And when you start to see that, I have to, look, everybody here knows I believe in thesis trading, and my thesis has not changed yet. The economy is doing pretty well. Look, Nintendo is putting out the new Switch 2, NTDOI. That thing could take off. I mean, they were saying that they wanted to beat the scalpers, so they won't have any problems with scalpers buying them and trying to resell them. So instead of making a few million of them, I think they said they're going to make 70 million Switch 2s, right?
Wow.
They're going to stop.
Yeah.
Right, and
that's one of those bets that it better pay off, because if it doesn't, it can bankrupt a company real quick.
I think Nintendo's going to be okay. I mean, they can sell those things, right? I mean, with PlayStation and with Xbox, they made a mistake by not making enough, right? And scalpers got angry, and I got angry because I have Xbox in my house. And you know what? When I couldn't get them and the prices were going up, nope, I'm not going to buy them. And it hurt the company. It hurt them. And Nintendo said they don't want to make this mistake, so they made as many as they thought they were going to make. Let's just hope that they don't. And I don't believe in hope and prayers, as you know, when it comes to markets. But let's hope that they don't have problems. Maybe the screens go bad or something, because this could be a bad recall. But they put off the selling of their product for a whole year to make sure it happened. You want to talk about something bad over the weekend? How about Disney's Snow White movie? Absolutely crushed. Nobody went to the show. I mean,
I saw Twitter people showing like that, every seat in the IMAX was, empty. And I got to throw some more at you, Steve. I forgot all about that. I did that yesterday. Where's my little notes here? Disney's really also so Epic is opening, Universal is opening up their Epic Park this week. That's right. And it's now really trying to become a competitor when it comes to that. They've joked about being a competitor, but they really hadn't been one, quite frankly, because of they're just the size difference. But this really puts them in a spot where they could be a player. Will be interesting.
Disney now, Magic Kingdom is under construction. Epcot is almost done with their construction. Hollywood Studios is under construction. They really went big on the money in the Star Wars land too, as well. And look, you try to go to the Disney parks right now. Good luck with that. And we're not even in the summer yet, and it was in the 50s and 60s down here, which is not conducive to good weather for going to the parks. Try to go, and right now, if you're a Florida resident, they're giving you a free day at the water park and like all kinds of things, because the weather's not perfect right now for that. But when you go into Disney, you're at their park, you really can't get out of their ecosystem, right? You're stuck. You're at Disney, boom. When you're at Universal, you can leave Universal, you can go eat dinner somewhere else. Yeah, you still have to, you still get to go to their lands and islands of adventure, and you're in that, and the new Epic one too as well. But you can easily get in and out, but they've done a very good job with their shopping. But I think Disney Springs is a much better shopping experience for a lot of people. A lot of tourists love the Disney Springs. So look, you know how I feel about this, Howard. Anytime that Disney's under 100, it's a buy. Anytime 110, get your 10% and take it. I know we're open now, but I think we go higher. I don't see anything wrong here. The VIX is still under 19. It was up 25, 26, but about a week ago, right? And we were all shorting the VIX, and I was called crazy for doing that. Now it's like, here we are. I think the VIX is about right where it should be. If you're looking to go really heavy, 15, 16, great time to be in the VIX. Anything over 25, 26, a little much right now. So, yeah.
Yep. We are open. Qs are at 487.53, so they are moving down to start off the day. I will say, Steve, a couple of things that came out, though, was talk that Disney's parks problems are self-inflicted. They haven't built enough new rides in recent years, and that the $71 billion that Century Fox is putting into Universal has changed that. And again, they had a lot of different people talk about it. And the part that I thought was interesting was what they've really closed the gap on was when it comes to those rides. Disney World, I was surprised, only has 9 roller coasters. Now Universal, between their 2 parks, has more than that. So for the younger generation, you might see, and when I say younger, I should say older versus Disney's demographic, young versus you and I, that might be where they get a little bit of that gain, right?
I will say this too, that Disney has a hard time as well with Disney does a good job of making rides accommodating to everybody. Universal, you've got to be a certain weight, you got to be a certain size, and they don't always accommodate for everybody. Most of the rides a lot of people can't be on, right? So that's not good. We're seeing NVIDIA pushing into high 120.20 now, hit the highs of the day, 120.64.
Yep, chip factor is definitely carrying the market so far today.
Yeah. When you back off tariffs, what do you expect? I mean, this is what's going to happen.
Right. Well, and this was I don't want to say no brainer, but we've been saying chips wasn't going away. The need for chips wasn't going away. The need for AI wasn't going away. None of that stuff was,
I was in New Orleans this weekend and with a friend of mine who is in the Forest Department, Forest Service, and we had long chats about that. And he started asking about Bitcoin. I mean, the guy has nothing about crypto. And yet he's asking me about Bitcoin, right? He's asking about chips. And the one thing that he asked me about in the middle of it was, hey, tell me what you know about nuclear energy and these mini nuclear energies. I live in Virginia, Steve. And yeah, it's going to happen. We're going to have mini nuclear reactors around and possibly the size of like semis parked outside of your home, and it's going to power a little small town, and that's what's going to happen, and it's going to be a lot better. So most definitely, I like this a lot.
Absolutely. Give me 1 second. Reloading my trading view.
Highs of the day now on NVIDIA, and Qs are right back up. The little bit of profit taking this morning was just silliness because we're going to go higher, and that's what's happening right now. The people don't have any conviction. You need to have conviction in this market. As a good trader, you need to have conviction. And right now, there was no conviction over the last few weeks. I had conviction. I knew what to do. I wasn't scared. I bought. And I heard, we could go lower. We could go lower. Yeah, we could. But man, that flush was like a prima donna flush. It was, if you've been in the markets a long time, you knew damn well that was where to go. So I was okay with it.
Hey, Steve, I got a weird one. Can you take a look at your tick and your advanced decline.us? Are they working?
Looks like my tick is down right now. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to. I restarted my thing here. Okay. I feel a little better because all of my stocks and everything is moving except for ticking and advanced decline. I just couldn't get that one to update.
Bitcoin now 87.5 now. So look, that whatever that was this morning, that little profit taking, gone. Howard, have we gotten rid of the North Korean hacker nonsense yet?
No, and we won't be done with that for a long time. I mean,
they just have so much to play with.
Well, I mean, they just keep hacking. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're doing a better job at trying to limit them being able to cash it out, but yeah, that doesn't go away anytime soon.
And you saw the administration over the weekend talk about tornado cash, right?
They unsanctioned it last week.
Unsanctioned tornado cash, yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the VIX dropping very quickly here.
There's the Qs though. Qs are the lows of the day here. 487.13. We're moving down. That's not normal to see the Qs and the VIX moving down like that. A little surprising there. Let's see if we can get a bounce back off the bottom of that quick one standard deviation here. We need to stay above that right now. Dow Jones is up 1 percentage point, SPY up 1.22, Q's up 1.33, and now moving back to the upside. RUT, big winner, like you said, Steve. They would be the winner in this type of situation, right?
Yeah.
Up 1.7, the small market caps. If you like those junk bonds, you would like the smaller cap fund also. Moving up nicely. Bitcoin holding up nicely at 87,354 so far. Ethereum has gotten back over 2,000. That should have Aaron Schurz happy. Gold, man, has been just sitting in that same spot. It's right at that 30.23 right now. So it's sort of stuck in that spot. You talked a little bit about oil earlier, Steve, 68.35. A lot of the talks over the weekend was that there's no sort of consensus between OPEC Plus on what they should do with supply and sort of how they should handle anything. And that could add a little bit of volatility into the gas and oil sector, huh?
Yeah, I mean, talk to me in about 2 weeks when things that we've been talking about are coming to fruition, right? If people really are staying home and they're not going out and about, then okay, let's see what that crack spread is, difference between that gas and obviously in the oil. Let's see how that goes, but I'm not too concerned about it. Yeah, you're right. This selling here now, I think they picked up right after the buyers. I think there's more sellers. I'm not scared here.
No, I'm not scared at all. It's just what we've seen recently. You're going to see this sell off, and then by 10:50 or so, we start to melt our way up.
And I don't really understand what the selling is.
I just always, when everybody's telling everybody today is the day, this is the day, I just get a little nervous the same way when everybody says the bottom's falling out and, run for the hills just keep your head on a swivel. There's enough talk. We have some momentum. There's a lot of money on the sidelines to move the market up. I do believe I've been banging the table. The valuations, especially on the Mag 7, were at great attractive prices. All the Mag 7
up 6% now. I mean, yeah, money moved right back into Tesla. People are just
it's value. At what point do you say, okay, I get it. I don't like Elon Musk right now either. But this was a $485 stock that was down at $214. Where do you think it's actually worth? That's a tough one because figuring out valuations on Tesla is almost impossible in my opinion. But the Nvidias of the world, the Apples of the world, the Microsoft, the Googles, the Amazons, those weren't as hard, right?
There is an interesting slant here to Tesla that's different. And one that I'm hearing now is that the board is not happy with Elon Musk and the Twitter situation. So, he might start divesting himself of some of these companies. If he does that, Tesla goes to the roof. I mean, it just does.
Does it? I see. That's one that I wonder because let's face it, Tesla was only at 488 because of Elon Musk, not because of what they had produced or any value within the company that showed that yet. It's
right, but the number of people that are dumping their Teslas, the number of the people that were starting, I really respect him for all the stuff that he's done in this world. Right, he's really worked, but has he really built anything? No, not really. He's a great hype guy, but he went a step too far on this one, right? And to me, come on, Elon, go back to what you do, man. Let's get this back. Help us with the technology side. The Doge side, let them do their thing, right? Let the technology guys do their thing like we do. But I don't know. I'm not gonna speak ill or speak good. I think I'm just gonna let it play out, right? I mean, the people are voting with their pocketbooks and they're not voting for him right now. So they're buying some of the stock. I think it's because it's just too cheap right now. I mean, the stock's
absolutely. Again, I'm not begrudging anyone that buys Tesla personally at all. As I did a nice move on it when it came down here to the 330 level. I did short it, but then I went back long on it, made some nice money. I think here right back watching as it needs to break 270. for this to be a true run. Otherwise, it's a sell-off, and you're going to be looking for a retrace to 238 and even 202. So you do have to keep in mind of where these resistance zones are on some of these Mag 7 as they move back up after being beat up so much, because you are going to hit resistance at some point here. For instance, NVIDIA, I've sort of targeted. I've got a green upside target here of 127.10 on it, with a floor at 115.79 that would invalidate that. So those are sort of the things I'm keeping an eye on personally, is looking between zones and looking at the key resistance zones we're going to reach up to as we move back up. And why do I point this out? As you can see, if you go back and zoom left on NVIDIA, this has been an area at that 128 where it struggled. It broke briefly above it in June, broke briefly above it in July, unable to hold either time. Tried to break it in August, couldn't hold it. Finally broke it in October and held above it, and now pulled back below it for really the first time here since that. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on, is that level for it. Let's take a look and see what's pumping here this morning. We'll say earnings today. The one I'm going to keep an eye on later on is Oklo has earnings again. Nuclear play there a little bit. Nuclear chip play. They do have their earnings after hours today. We are seeing a nice move up here. So the pumpers so far today, Root Inc., which is an insurance broker and has been on a heck of a run here. They've been on our pumper list 3 or 4 times over the last few weeks. So Root Inc. definitely moving up to the upside here. Nice move. I'm not even familiar with that company personally.
If you really want to get a good feeling of how the reinsurers are doing, I usually look at General Ray. That's where I usually go to. You know, for me, there's a lot of things I really want to look at right now, but I will tell you this much. Home buying right now, people are getting nervous about the home buying. I saw Peter Thiel over the weekend. If you don't know if you don't know what reinsurers do, think of it like Berkshire Hathaway kind of does the same thing too, that they insure the insurers. So after the hurricanes and all of that stuff's gone away, do they still make their money? Are they getting enough in premium? Are they still getting their money, monthly money? And the answer is yes. Right now, insurance companies were able to handle it. The government stepped in, so they protected them too as well. And people are starting to rebuild. But now you're starting to see that the general rays of the world, the reinsurers are probably going to do very, very well. But as time goes on, and if you believe that the world is warming up and all those things, which it is, there might be a little problem here. But I do like the reinsurers right now, especially their ability to borrow money.
Right. I will point out in some of the gainers here today, I noticed one of the stocks. Oh, where'd it go? Tangier had been one of the big gainers. Yeah, up 2.54%. So we talked about this, Simon Properties and Tangier here just on Thursday, right, Steve? Nice little move up since that here. Regained its 32.69. For those that don't know, Tangier is a lot of those outlet malls you see around the U.S. They're a REIT that's highly involved in that market. Steve and I were talking about it because it's always been one that we've liked. When he brought up Simon's Property, I did want to point out nice move up here again there.
And I will say, if you're going to go that direction, I would even say Skechers to me. Yesterday I saw in Tampa a big Skechers brick and mortar. I was like, wait, what? I like this down here. I also like Nike down here. I mean, I mentioned that the other day. I like Nike. I think shoes are going to do quite well here. And I think I get it, we're not going back to school yet, so it's not quite ready. But Skechers to me was started to be like a nice little buy down there. And look at that. And Bank of America upgraded them. So I like that play. You've got some serious upside. Look at that 208 moving average. I mean, that thing is just whoo-hoo. You got an opportunity there for maybe a longer dated calls out there, but we don't talk about the buy or sell, but that's
Skechers definitely interesting. We know they've made a big move into, the sort of comfort shoe that's sort of taking over. I would say that's almost an an inverse play of Nike if you're playing Skechers, because it's the opposite sort of way. One features on technology and made for athletes. Skechers is really pushed itself as the shoe of people like Steve and I that walk to the refrigerator every once in a while. As our exercise rather. Definitely the plays today are all when it comes to tech. Tempest AI now up 8.35%. D-Wave Quantum, which trades as QBTS, up 11.6. We talked about Kingsoft Cloud Holdings earlier, up 6%. Lumentum Holdings up 6.59. The only thing I'd really seen, Steve, that's moving sort of to the downside, I don't know if it still is, had been, Chinese-based stocks still moving down a little bit. Alibaba down slightly.
I'm really liking Lunar this morning. LUNR.
Oh, LUNR, ATST, both of them are flying here today. So space flight definitely back in the forefront. Nike actually down almost 30 basis points here. So they are getting hit a little bit. SMCI, another loser today. They got some analysts downgrades, 2.63 to the downside here on SMCI, back at that $40 range here. So they can't make a big move up. Tesla is, though, up 6% here, 263.64. And still moving to the upside here. Again, I'm worried about that 270.10 area. I would be looking to take some profit at that spot. Let's take a look at the Spider Selects. Netflix not getting much love here, Steve. That one's the only one of the Mag 7 on the red so far, down 0.15%. And as we look at it, Spider Select Funds, all 11 sectors moving to the upside nicely here.
S&P Global March Composite PMI now coming at 53.5 versus the prior reading of 51.6. So PMI coming a little higher here. Manufacturing PMI coming in at 49.8.
Those aren't bad numbers, so those are not too bad. DXY up slightly this morning. It has been coming back, as Steve Flanagan pointed out. You can see that double bottom W formation that came here. He's talked about that 104.47 area as a key spot to watch there. Any move above that could be, pretty explosive. It's interesting how the ticket advance declines down. Banks are getting a little bit of love here this morning. JP Morgan up 2.14%. Another one that we've talked about here on the show. Again, their valuations had come down so much over the last few months with everything else. Looked like good buys, and you can see the big jump up here. It's moved up from 225, where we sort of pointed out the liquidity zone, all the way now up to 246 here. So again, if you were buying when we told you on some of these, you are very happy today. Morgan Stanley, nice move up 2.29% here. Schwab, one of your favorites, up 2.34%. Again, the entire chip sector, all the major chip companies up, being led right now by TXN, Texas Instruments, actually the big winner today, up 4.21%.
Chips.
Micron up 3.27, Analog Devices up 4.28. So nice move up by all of them. Again, we talked about all the crypto stocks. They are also moving significantly to the upside here. You got MSTR up 4.62%, Mara up 6.14%. The big winner so far, a lot of them up 5%. So we are definitely going to see an explosive move up here. Restaurants still not moving up, though. In general, we see a lot of the fast food restaurants getting hit here. Sit-down restaurants doing better. Darden up 2.57%. Texas Roadhouse up 2.4%. Shake Shack, nice move up 3.98%. And Brinker International, which trades under EAT, up 4.47% so far. Healthcare was a little bit of a mixed bag. UNH still down here about a 0.5 percentage point. Most of the others, Elevance, Cigna, moving to the upside. Merck down slightly here, down 46 basis points also. A nice move up by the Steel Energy. We mentioned Nucor got some analyst Upgrades, they're up 4.86. And in sympathy, all the other steel companies moving up nicely. Cleveland Cliffs up 4.14%. STLD up 3.5%. And US Steel or X up 1.86. When it comes to aluminum, the big winner so far, CMC up 4%. Alcoa up 1.3%. And Kalu up 3.14. CENX, one of the other aluminum companies, is the only one in the red, down 88 basis points so far.
There is something that is bothering me, Howard. It's tuberculosis. The tuberculosis numbers are really rising lately, and I want to go after companies that treat tuberculosis. And when I look at the biotech sector right now, I can't believe we're actually looking at measles and smallpox and tuberculosis and things that we pretty much have beaten up. But there's a couple of companies that could really go into this, and this is Johnson & Johnson. This could be Sanofi, Pfizer. I had to pull up the whole list here. GlaxoSmithKline, GSK. So there's a lot of companies that go after this, and I think we need to be careful. We could see some serious issues here in the future here. I think we just need to keep our eyes on that.
Yep, absolutely makes sense. If we're not going to vaccinate for them, then we're going to need to cure them.
It's interesting.
Okay, so Q's 1.73 highs of the day here on the Qs. Just broke to a new high, trying to break above 490 here. So we got a nice little move to the upside here, trying to approach our 200-day MA. Broke that first key resistance I had set up here. So now we need to see if we can hold that level, that 487 area, as support for a move back up here in a bigger way on the Qs. But nicely up 1.7%, SPY up 1.5% so far.
I'm hearing that President Trump will hold another cabinet meeting with Elon Musk actually going to be there on Monday.
Huh.
It's like, when are you going to go home, dude? Yeah, it's interesting with Elon Musk continuing to sitting in on the cabinet meetings here.
Seeing reports, Singapore's annual core inflation just eased to 0.6% in February. So again, lowest reading in nearly 4 years for Singapore. So they have their inflation moving in the right direction. Also seeing that U.S. PMI future expectations for services at the second lowest level since 2022, but that manufacturing expectations remain high. So that we do want to see that. We like to see manufacturing move into the upside.
$87,558 now. I'm back on Bitcoin. I think we go higher. I think we break 88,000 today.
We got room to about 89.6 or so. Looks like the spot that I kind of had lined up earlier today. Keeping a look now, Root up 10.54%. Tempest AI now up almost 10%. Diginex up 9.16. That's a mover so far this morning. As Steve mentioned, AST Space Mobile up 8.32%. And now Robinhood up 8%. So this is a rip your face off, run to the upside, everybody. What a fun day it is when they have some nice green days like this. So moving to the upside, SPY now 572.69 high of the days, Q's highs of the days, RUT highs of the day. And got to switch to the Dow Jones first, but I think that's highs of the day there too. It is. We're at highs of the day across all of our major indices here. Hey, tick started working again. Advanced decline now up 44.14. It's not really working though.
But you have to ask the question, what were people nervous about this morning and taking the profits? I mean, you saw these numbers coming up pretty good. I mean, this is really good.
I think I would point to the algorithmic trading that Steve Flanagan talks about, where they have to take their profits. They have certain things that are set up and they're taking their profit no matter what. That's why that first 20 minutes always worries me so much, because it's really a battle between all those algorithms just fighting it out amongst themselves, in my personal opinion. Otherwise, I would, again, You know, I don't think that many people positioned themselves long on Friday to take advantage and sell off, quite frankly,
No,
unfortunately.
no.
So that's
Too
part
much
of it. You
nervousness
know?
over the weekend, right? Oh, we don't know what's going to happen, right? And yeah,
Yeah, I went pretty neutral and said it on Friday. You know, there's just been too much tweets that could take you either way there. I'd rather miss the first 1.5% of a move back up, and you know, then watch another bad tweet take it down 2% again. So it's a tough one. Yeah, Bitcoin's got room, not all the way to 90. I think 89,600, 89,800 is the area to keep an eye on Bitcoin.
I think we go to 88,000. I think we break 88 today.
Yeah, I'm saying I think we have room to 89.6 today.
89.6. All right, there you go. I like that.
I think we've got room to the upside there. That's about what I'm looking at.
I mean, you're seeing the dollar now 104.31, so that's putting a little bit of a
Always creeping up a little bit. That's the
Yeah.
only thing we got to keep an eye on here. You know, again, if it breaks that sort of 104.40 area, that's where we start to worry about an explosive move to the upside there. You can see how quickly we came down from 107 to 104.40. We don't want to see that type of move to the upside, but like we've talked about and Mr. Flanagan's talked about, when you see that, there's not much price discovery, right? Not a lot of remorseful buyers for us to take advantage of.
Financial Times just now posting that sales of new Bentleys, Ferraris, Jaguars, and Rolls-Royce models have dropped by as much as 3/4 after the city-state raised taxes on the vehicles and stepped up checks following the $2 billion scandal. Ouch. That's in Singapore.
Oof. Yeah. Carvana up 8% here, Steve, this morning again. Nice move up 206.25. So really, again, that not only broke above the key resistance level, it blew through it there. So nice move up by Carvana. Seeing Delta Airlines up 3.68% here today too. So some of these, again, I pointed out the airlines, how much they've been beaten up. You know, these are things that were trading at $70. Now, you know, we're down in the mid 40s, now up around 48. So
it feels like the markets are tiring out a little bit, slowing down a bit here.
Well, I mean, it's already ripped the face off most of these. This is what you do to me with Bitcoin. It goes up 10,000, then you go that retraces $150, and you already start getting angry, buddy. You gotta breathe a little bit.
I like
Yeah,
it. You know, look, I like the volatility though. I really do. I mean, that's why we're here to trade, right? But you're seeing what I'm excited about is that it is a little bit chilled out a little bit here. That people are chilling out a little bit and buying and starting to invest a bit more than just, oh, I got to trade. And 67.7 coming up on Bitcoin here. So, and come on, VIX, drop a little bit more, and we're gonna go higher here.
I will say Nvidia struggling there to hold that 121 level back at 120.20, right in the middle of its trading zone here. I've sort of done. I will also point out, because everybody does it when Bitcoin does it, we did have the death cross come across on Nvidia here with the 50-day falling below the 200-day MA for the first time since, I want to say, there it is.
And you know what happened right after that?
January 23rd.
Yeah, it went right straight up. So, yeah. 87,706 now. So we're going to get close here on the, we could just start to see Bitcoin.
Tesla now up 7.26%. Netflix has finally followed the rest of the Mag 7 into the positive here. So nicely moved up here.
Yeah. Anytime it's under 1,000, right?
Meta, the big winner so far now, up 4.15% here. So nice move up by Meta. Bitcoin 87.7 here. Gold's the only one not really moving up so far. 10-year back above 4.3 though. Why? That's at the highs of the day also. I don't like that interest rates are moving up at the same time that all these stocks are moving up. And we do see XLP has gone negative here. So the first of the spider selects to move to the downside so far is the consumer staple area, now down just 8 basis points. We do see XLK still leading the way, which is technology up 1.46, followed by industrials up 1.28.
This buying here in Bitcoin seems to be Michael Saylor induced here.
Could be. I think it's just ETF inflows coming back in now.
Could be, yeah. It seems very, which is cool. I think it seems to be a little bit methodical.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just been a steady climb, which is usually just ETF inflows moving back in personally.
Yeah.
We're not seeing the liquidations really move it up. You are 100% correct there, Steve.
Yeah.
Just this
and I
market.
like that. That's smarter. It's a smarter move than this 100x nonsense that we're seeing all over the place. And that really is,
87,729. So
these PMI numbers that came out this morning, I mean, if that doesn't scream to the Fed that they need to start cutting rates, I don't know what will. And I think that's what you're seeing the markets responding to.
Yeah, I can't argue there. I do see our man Stephen Flanagan coming in, so let's get him into the room here and start talking about everything that has to do with money. I do know that he has been working hard over the weekend. I saw his tweet, so we'll bring him in and talk a little bit about what's going on. Mr. Flanagan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, guys. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you, sir.
All right, Steve Flanagan. I read your page on Twitter. Now, if you guys don't know, Steve Flanagan has a Twitter. If you don't mind, Hondo, can you post that up there so people can follow him? Because what he wrote over the weekend, and I have to say, I liked it a lot. I liked what you were talking about, and you said it here, and I'm going to read it out for you, and I'll post it here so everybody can see it too. But in the marketplace, lopsided positioning where investors overwhelmingly favor one side, either long or short, can trigger sharp market impact when it reverses. Is that what you were seeing a few weeks ago when this sell-off just happened, this capitulation?
Yes, Steve, that's exactly. And what we were talking about Friday in particular was that the currency markets were beginning to show this bottoming in place.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of reports that I followed over the weekend, and whether the validity of them is true, most of the sources I find to be fairly accurate. And that was that European selling of the U.S. equity market began in around the middle of February, and it was to record amounts, followed by the number of CTAs and hedge funds being short the U.S. or lowest exposure in a long time. And conversely, they have increased their European exposure. So what does this tell me? It tells me that once you're in that trade, now you look back, the currency markets are going flatline against the bottom. The dollar index is bottoming at 102.80. And so the slightest beginning turn, how do these positions suddenly say, oh, I'm now underweight in the U.S.? Because the big investors always follow the double bang theory, meaning they look for the appreciation of the asset they invest in, and they look for the move in the currency market. And that's the double bang. You get the currency to move and the asset that you invest in. So how do you turn an ocean liner around in a lake without anybody seeing it? And this is referred to as market impact. Something near and dear to my heart in the electronic FX worlds is now becoming very apparent in the equity markets, especially as these positions that are being taken are so large. They cannot turn them around. So the ingredients were there for me to make that talk on Sunday, that I think that the currency markets are going to show me that the markets are going to begin to gyrate. And I'm not talking going back into a long-term, just a turn to return to neutral. That's what I highlighted.
Yeah, and you wrote conditions today appear ripe for reversal stampeding, which begins to feed upon itself.
That's right. As to understand that comment, you have to understand the way a electronic computerized model works. It's short. It's sold over the last 3-4 weeks. And suddenly the price begins to ebb back higher. That model now begins to say, let's, for example, say I'm 10 short. I now see the price beginning to turn, cut it to 9, cut it to 8. And as the price begins to build upon itself, the model now begins to kick in and spit out electronic orders into the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
Take into effect the tremendous investments that go into ETFs today. When you buy or sell an ETF, it has a basket of currencies that get released, or equities that get released into the market. If you buy a technology ETF, there may be 15 or 20 technology stocks that have to be bought when you buy one share. Now then throw in the computerized model that goes into the ETF and says 10, no, now make it 20. Oh, now I have to buy 50. And it begins to be a buying frenzy. I think that's what we're beginning to see at the open here today. In the equity, we're beginning to see that in the currency markets, as well as the Dixie gets very close to my 104.40 break point.
Well, you're at 104.32 right now, so there it is.
Yep. And it's all a matter of just these super large positions that cannot hide themselves in the market. Now there's dark pools in equities. In the currency market, we've got multiple areas. There's no single source of pricing. It's a variety. So when one market moves, every other market begins to perk its head up and look and say, hey, is somebody buying? And then throw in your HTFs, HFTs, high frequency trading firms, which merely send out thousands, if not, much more than that, orders that can flood the marketplace at any point in time. And they all look for momentum shifts. Momentum shifts is what they want to trade upon.
Yeah.
And that's what I think we're seeing today.
All right, so let's talk about it. Over the weekend, Trump changed the tunes on tariffs. Talk to us a little bit.
Steve, we talked all last week about the sprinkle of positive news that could be in the marketplace. Given the conditions that we've been highlighting, the sprinkle was a targeted tariff. What? Wait a second. That means it's not going to be as bad, perhaps, as expressed. The negative sentiment gets dented. The markets are oversold. It's just a sprinkle of positive that turns us, and I think that's what we've seen.
All right, so then let's talk about Steve Flanagan. What's next? I mean, you saw this move to the upside. There we go, 88,100 again on Bitcoin. What's next? I mean, Steve, you're seeing the Dixie right now, 104.29. You called it to 104.40. We're pretty much there. What's the next move? I think that's what people are looking for now.
Okay, the next move, the rush is to neutral. That's the easiest way to say this. So right now, you're probably going to see today and tomorrow with this little bit of an upsurge in the market as people try desperately to cover and take profits that they have. Then we've got the big April announcement on these targeted tariffs. And how bad are they going to be? Are they going to become reciprocal? Are the nations going to hit us back? Or is it going to be plain and simple, very obvious? Hey, you charge me 25% at your door. I charge you nothing. Today, we're going to say cheese now goes 25% just to match what yours is. How do you defend that if you're on the other side of that going, well, we are charging 25% because we're protecting our domestic market?
Yeah, but Howard and I talked about this morning that the nationalism of countries are now coming together like never before. I mean, look at Canada. I mean, they had Mike Myers and Mark Carney on a commercial, and Germany's numbers are better, and UK's numbers are better coming out, and all of a sudden, I think Trump's done one thing: he's united the whole world against us.
I'm going to disagree.
Okay,
because, and I'm simply going to say, let's leave Canada as a separate subject. But if I look at Europe, Germany, France, we've had huge populist movements in their voting that have all been done very recently.
That's true.
So watch the quick embracing of the populist movement. Canada, Mark Carney is rolling the dice big time here. He's not a politician, but he's being advised by the politicians quickly jump in and take this momentum, call for a national election, and we could quickly have a massive Liberal Party, majority. Looks that way to me right now. You're right. I think I would say today, Trump may have kind of miscalculated that one, but don't keep in mind there's a lot of negative buildup over the long time that Trudeau was in charge.
Sure.
So I'm not certain what's going to, but I would say watch for Trump to very quickly pivot on Canada and take away the momentum or the steam behind this snap election.
What will change his mind about Canada? I mean, he's been pretty adamant. He wants to take Greenland. He wants to take Denmark. He wants to take like Greenland and Iceland and Arctic. He's talked about making Canada the 51st state. I mean, that's some pretty serious talk from a president who shouldn't be talking that way.
No, he shouldn't talk that way, and that's very serious. And so, but that was under Trudeau.
Right. So you think that him and Mark Carney are going to
he hasn't slowed down. He's said it under Carney also. He tweeted it over the weekend again, 51st state.
Did he really? Okay. Yeah. Well, Mark Carney's a central banker, and I think a very pragmatic man. I've respected him over a number of years when he was Bank of England and then Bank of Canada. This guy's, he's the real deal, but he's not a politician.
Right.
And Trump, you could say the same thing.
I was about to ask, is Trump a politician?
Yeah. So you could have these two guys come in a room and say, you know what, let's hammer this out. Now, Mark Carney, the problem is that he's got all the politicians behind him calling the shots as to the snap election. If you recall, in France, they called the snap election, and Macron got hammered in the polls. So it'll be interesting to see, but I would say the momentum right now looks to me like the Trump administration may have misunderestimated this one.
We're hearing from one of our people watching in right now, the Hawk, talking about Google this morning. That's a good question. With Google, as it being an international company, they're really affected by international rates and by currency. When you look at the tech side of things and you see the rates now at 4.323 on the 10-year now, Trump has been beating the table over lowering rates to the Fed, right? It really has affected our dollar a lot, quite a bit, I think. And if the trade war happens, they're not going to really be buying our dollar, right? I mean, are they going to be backing off the dollar, the rates? Are they going to be borrowing money to buy money? They're not going to be borrowing to buy more chips like NVIDIA or whatever. This could be like a whole roller coaster that over the next few weeks I think we've seen a little bit of an abatement over that today, but who knows? And maybe tomorrow he may just say, hey, screw it. We're going to put tariffs on everybody again, right? That's so much there, I think.
So much there. You nailed it. Roller coaster. I am not saying by any stretch of the imagination that this is a full-on, let's go back into the trade. Absolutely not. This is a rush to neutral because in April, we want to see what happens. So it's a rush to neutral and then a pause. You could easily turn this right back down. Dollar index go right back through its 102.80 level. Right now, I'm looking at the dollar index probably to test potentially a 105.80 level on this bounce here because a lot of momentum could be behind us as we trigger. You can see the chart formation. It's just a knee-jerk reaction. But once we get back into the neutral side of zone, April is going to be a highly volatile month. We've seen volatility. I would actually say volatility is going to increase as we move forward because of all these potential bombshell announcements. And every time a new data point comes into the marketplace, the computer models have to take that, digest it, reweight it, and spit out orders into the marketplace. So,
but usually April is not a volatile month. Usually April is a low volatile as we go into the spring and summer, right?
usually, Steve, and again, if we look back, here's the old back testing the model. April's always a slow month. It's low volatility. So let me get set for low volatility. Well, guess what? All those computer models, boop, out the window, because this is a whole new realm we're in.
All right, so you and I have been trading for over 30, 40 years. Are we just living in a different world now than as traders as we grew up into this?
Quick answer, yes. Bottom line, computerized trading dominates everything, and everybody, every hedge fund, every large trader, and I'm talking people with trillion-dollar positions out there, every one of them has a computer model hooked up to the marketplace. Everything is correlated today. All the marketplaces react together, and as one market moves, it spits out orders to begin to have a balance. If gold,
but the people that are putting those algos in are you and me's, right? I mean, they're the ones that still know the old ways of doing things, right? So is that changed, or is there algos? I mean, I have this philosophy that in the future, algos are going to write themselves, right? Computers are going to write their own algos, and they're going to change the algos on the fly.
Oh, boy. Steve, now we're near and dear to my heart. As a risk manager, we would create a sandbox in which the automated models could react in. And my job was to be the perimeter. I would make sure that the models stayed inside their sandbox. I would think if you have AI models beginning to write AI models in an automated space without any, I don't see the regulators being very happy about that. And keep in mind, at that center of market making, regulators are very much involved in watching what goes on. Because it only takes.
I want to point out a big headline that just came across from Robert Kennedy. I am thrilled to announce that we're ending pharmaceutical ads in television. That's a pretty big statement.
I'm not unhappy with that. I like that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing either. That's why I wanted to bring it out. I think that, that is a very interesting one, though. That's got to hurt the Comcast of the world, right? And those companies more than anybody else, because Big Pharma is a huge advertiser. I'm
looking at TTD up 2% still today. I mean, I think they knew that was coming, though. Advertisers would be CMCSA.
Who doesn't watch late night TV and all the, I love the ads. Could cause death. Could cause.
Yeah,
death.
I mean, we're going to fix your laryngitis, but your fingers.
To solve a hangnail, you might lose. Yeah, your heart could fall out, and but that's an interesting one. So
I'm not really seeing them move in the markets very much. Merck, Pfizer, nothing here. Johnson & Johnson, they're all kind of. So I guess this was a move that they kind of expected, I guess, in a lot of ways.
Probably,
but it's not moving the needle. I was surprised by that. Yeah.
Trade.
I think, Steve. Let's get back to April. What's one thing that could happen? I mean, you saw the PMIs in Europe weren't so bad. UK wasn't so bad. The service sector was a little weak in one area.
Here's what I'm worried about. And I haven't talked about this too much. And those of us that, if you know my background in college, I was poli-sci and history, and I'm a little worried that as the weather warms up, that fighting heats up too as well. And it's usually boots on the ground kind of heating up wars. I know that Trump is slowing down and saying he doesn't want all these fighting, but I have a bad feeling that Israel, Hamas is going to heat up. I have a bad feeling Syria is going to heat up again. I have a bad feeling that Ukraine and Russia will heat up again as the weather warms up. And that's when usually the worst fighting happens. Cold weather, people don't like to fight, and they use drones and stuff. But I think that's what I'm a little bit worried more than anything about it. And I don't usually get worried about that kind of stuff. But this one is a little bit scary as everybody's focused on other things and not really focused. I mean, we haven't seen this many wars, and I'm a little more concerned about the Taiwan-China strait right now. I think something's going to kick off soon. Is what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about the China-Taiwan thing.
Okay, good.
But I do agree with you. You just don't snap a finger, new president, everything goes away.
Right.
I mean, we're already seeing Israel beginning to start up again on Hamas. I'm more worried, Steve. I think the epicenter of it all is going to be Iran, and I think that
Could be,
might be the one that really triggers. And I'm not going to rule that out too, Steve. I think your poli-sci is probably, bang on and your tingling sense here.
It is, yeah.
But my view has been, and since the beginning of the year, I'm looking June, July, maybe in May. That's where things begin to kick off. I'm very worried about the volatility throughout April, May. And I think only as I get close to the end of May, based on the resolution of a lot of these issues, will I start to feel much more comfortable in establishing myself. Right now, rush to neutral, and then to wait and see. But you've got to have super sharp risk management, which means you've got to be protecting against the downside in the marketplace.
And I understand over the weekend we the vice president's wife is on her way to Greenland. There's a lot of things going on that just are the extra things around that really aren't affecting U.S. policy right now, but could affect U.S. policy. I mean, if we go after Greenland, how will that affect Denmark and UK? How will that affect Russia? Are we getting closer to the Arctic? There's a lot of things here that I'm just a little, as you said, the poli-sci, the rackles in the back of my neck are kind of going, oof, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Greenland, I think, is fairly, the election's over. A populist movement is clearly in power now. It's up to them whether they want to establish, an independence vote. That's up to the people there. I think that's probably going to happen, but that's not going to be this year. That'll be sometime next year. Perhaps. And if they do, they may want to just stay independent, but be a closer ally of the U.S. So who knows? I mean, it's definitely, I don't like the talk that that Trump uses in Canada or Greenland. I think when you start to do that, you scare people off. And I don't like that. I need stability in the marketplace to be a true investor that wants to be all in.
All right, Steve, it's 10:22. I think we'll move on, and we'll see you on Wednesday, right?
I do want to point out, everybody, looks like X is down. I'm getting reports all the way across here that X is down on
Seeing
our
OpenAI also down, Network Solutions is down, AT&T is down, Xfinity is down, Microsoft down, Perplexity is down. We're getting some serious down detectors right now. So
what is not down, Bitcoin about to break above 89 here. You heard that from me this morning. Steve was asking if we were going to break 88. We've gone to 88.772 here this morning already.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, guys. I'll see you on Wednesday morning.
See you on Wednesday. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks.